हाम्रो सूत्रहरूमा त सबैको तथागत हुन्छ, गर्व हुन्छ। बुद्ध नेचर, तथागत गर्व सबै प्राणीको, सत्वहरूको, हैन? के कुकुरमा पनि हुन्छ भनेर सोध्यो।
Our sutras say that all beings have Tathagata Garbha. So does a dog also have this? Tathagata Garbha means Buddha nature. And Joshu or Chaochu answered by saying just mu. Mu is a Japanese word. In Chinese it is wu. Wu means no, and also has the meaning of shunyata. So that was the answer given. And the monk who asked this question was not a novice. He had already studied extensively and had done considerable practice. And upon hearing just that one word, he attained enlightenment. Here, attaining enlightenment does not mean that he became a Buddha. I will repeat this point again and again, because these days the word Buddha has been much corrupted. Thus, enlightenment here means that he had a glimpse of realization. He recognized it, that is it. So this method of question and answer is called koan or kungan or kongan. And the Zen guru gives the student a kungan to do vipassana on. How is vipassana done? One sits in meditation posture and repeating the word mu again and again, one looks for its meaning. What did the guru mean by it? What is its meaning? What is the meaning of mu? Now this is not a mantra. Although it is repeated again and again like a mantra, it is not mantra. It is a process of questioning the meaning of mu in this case. Asking oneself, what did Chaochu mean by this? Meditating on this. This meditation is done over and over and over again. And one meets with the guru from time to time to give the guru an answer, if one has understood something. In fact, in many Zen monasteries, students are required to regularly visit the guru for interviews, where the guru asks, "So what is mu?" and the student has to give an answer. If the student is not able to answer, the guru hits him with a stick, but lightly, as it is only symbolic. It is not that the student is actually beaten. But we do find stories of actual heavy beatings where the beating shocked the student to a glimpse of realization. So what was meant by mu? Mu means no. Now the sutras do state that all sentient beings have Tathagata Garbha. And Chaochu was a learned scholar, so he knew this. But here he replied mu, or no. In Tibetan, this word is mare, meaning no, not there. So what did the guru mean by saying no here? This is the method of vipassana. Vipassana that looks for the truth, looks to see the nature of mind. One diligently searches over and over again, meets with the guru from time to time, gets a beating and scolding if the answer is wrong. And as this process continues to unfold, the day will arrive when realization dawns from the inside. One realizes that, oh, this is what the guru was pointing towards. Because mu is not really a word, but rather a finger that is pointing towards reality or truth. One searches from the inside for the truth that the finger is pointing towards. We are not talking about Atma Tattva Gyan or realization of the truth of self here. We are talking about the Buddhist truth, meaning that of anitya or impermanence, dukkha or suffering, anatma or non-self, and shunyata or emptiness. No tradition of Zen has ever strayed from these, and the word mu itself means shunyata. That is its other connotation. Another famous koan is, if this is the sound of two hands clapping, tell me what is the sound of one hand clapping. So this is a koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Now here, one is not thinking about it, but rather meditating on it. One hand, one hand, one hand clapping. One meditates this way, placing the mind below the navel. In the Zen tradition, the mind is placed in the navel region. And even in many of the Vajrayana yoga practices, the instructions say to place the mind there. Because when the mind is placed there, thoughts and concepts decrease. Whereas if the mind is placed in the head region, thoughts go round and round. This area of the belly is called hara in Japanese and called Tantian in Chinese. So one places the mind in the Tantian, repeatedly places the words such as mu or one hand clapping in that region, or just the word clapping. This does not matter as it is not a mantra, and one tries to see what was meant by that word. What is meant, what it is pointing to, is shunyata. But then again, shunyata is also just a word. It is not an experience. The word mu is also not an experience. The word clapping is also not an experience. But by practicing repeatedly in this way, over and over again, sometimes for 3 years, sometimes 4 years, sometimes even for 6 years, one gets a flash from the inside, and one knows the answer to the koan. And what is the answer? It is not really an answer. There is a saying in Zen that the Guru has displayed his sword. He displayed the sword of Manjushri. And if you have really understood, then now you display your sword of Manjushri. This is the real answer, to display one's sword of Manjushri. There will be an answer given, but the answer is in the displaying of one's sword of Manjushri, which is related to the koan. It is said that when the Guru says mu, or the clapping of one hand, is actually displaying his sword of Manjushri. So when the sword of Manjushri is displayed, what is it really pointing to? Expressing it in language, it is pointing to shunyata, or to the prabhaswar chitta, or the luminous mind, etc. But until one actually experiences this, one cannot really give the answer. However, when one is able to give the answer, then one can give 100 answers to a single question. So this is the tradition of Rinzai Zen, or Linji, which continues to this day in Japan. This tradition is quite strict, because they require strict practice of meditation, sitting without any movement at all. Any new person who wishes to join the monastery has to go through many tests. For example, if one wants to go to a Rinzai Zen monastery in Japan and stay there and meditate for say 2 to 3 or 5 to 6 months, one has to wait outside the door upon getting there. Then a senior monk from the monastery will come and apologizing say that there is no room available and will ask the person to leave. But the person has to remain there. Then when the evening falls, they bring food, but again ask the person to leave as it is already nightfall and there is no place for them. Some stories say that on the second day, when they see that the person's legs have become swollen from standing for so long, he is invited to come inside and is told, "Since you seem to be tired and it has been difficult for you, you can sleep here tonight, but please leave in the morning." But if the person then meditates all night long, sitting still, they finally say, "Oh, there is a place open," and they invite him in. Now this Zen method of meditation does not match any Shaiva meditation method, and nor do its ways and styles. The Zen tradition includes regular sessions of 45 minutes of sit-down meditation and 15 minutes of chankraman, or walking meditation. The meditators are seated in 2 rows. In Soto Zen, the meditators face the walls, while in Rinzai Zen, they face inward. And there is a monitor who goes up and down the room, holding a stick and keeping an eye on them. The monitor will be someone who has already practiced extensively and has reached a higher level. And if someone makes even a slight movement during the meditation, the monitor hits them with a stick. No matter what, the meditators are not allowed to move even in the slightest during the 45 minutes of meditation, even if their bottoms hurt. That is why they are tested rigorously first, and only those who have great endurance and would be able to do this practice are allowed to join. Once one sits for this session, there has to be complete stillness. One is not allowed to even blink one's eyes nor do anything else. The koan should be the only focus for the 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, a bell rings, then one does chankraman, which is called kinhin in Japanese. After doing chankraman for 15 minutes, then one again sits down for meditation. Bathroom breaks for 5 or 6 minutes are given in between, and then one sits again. Once one sits for meditation, no movement is allowed, even if one's nose starts running. No movement at all is allowed until the 45 minutes have passed. Thus, it is very strict. Now, which Shiva Sutra or which Shaiva tradition has this method of meditation? Yes, they go up to the mountains and meditate there, but where is the practice of sitting in this manner, in this style, and of practicing shamatha and vipassana in this way? In the Zen practice, there is both shamatha and vipassana. Shamatha is practiced through constant repetition of the word, such as mu, and vipassana is done by looking at the meaning of the word, by looking at what it is pointing towards, at what the guru was showing by saying mu or by saying clapping of one hand. It is looking for what the guru is pointing to. Searching for this is vipassana. Like I have said in earlier episodes, the meaning of vi in vipassana is visheshena vividena. Vividena means holistically, while visheshena means in a special way. Any Nepali should be able to understand the word visheshena. And pashyana means to see the nature of mind, to recognize the nature of mind. And this is related to shunyata. The repetition of the word mu is the mind, and the meaning of it is shunyata. But even what I am saying now is just words. You are not going to get enlightened just by me saying them. This has to be meditated upon, and that is what is done in the tradition of Rinzai Zen.
भने सोतो ज़ेनमा जुन साउथुङ भन्ने गुरुबाट सुरु भएको र जापानमा गएर दोगेन भन्ने गुरुबाट जापान लग्यो 11औं शताब्दीमा जापान लगेको हो.
Now Soto Zen began with the gurus named Saoshan and Tungshan. They are combined into Saotung. And it was taken to Japan later in the 11th century by another guru named Dogen. And there are numerous large monasteries in this tradition as well, and the manner of sitting is similar to the Rinzai Zen just described. However, here the way of taking and using the koan is different. One first just focuses the mind on the inhalation and exhalation of the breath at the navel. And this is just shamatha at this point. As one continues to practice in this way, there is a deepening of experience. And upon reaching a certain level, one starts interacting with the guru. This interaction uses the method known as Genzo Koan, in which the guru asks a series of questions to prod and poke the practitioner, which leads to realization from within. One focuses on practicing shamatha, then vipassana is done in the interaction with the guru, in trying to answer the questions. Then shamatha is practiced again, and vipassana is done again in interaction with the guru, with a mind that has become pliable with the shamatha practice. Thus, shamatha and vipassana are done in this way. Now, this is not just Chittanusati or mindfulness of mind, but is also vipassana on Prabhaswar Chitta or the luminous mind. As I have mentioned in earlier episodes, in the Udayi Sutta of the Theravadi Anguttara Nikaya Anuttarya Vaggo, it says,
Iti vivatena cetasa apariyodhena sappabhasa chittam bhavediti. खुल्ला चित्तले केही पनि रोकथाम नभएको चित्तले प्रभास्व चित्तलाई भावना गर्ने.
इति विवटेन चेतसा अपरियोनाधेन सपभासम चित्तम bhavetiti. Meaning, with an open mind, a mind that is not obscured by anything, meditate on the Prabhaswar Chitta, or the luminous mind. And it says, Anusati Thanena, meaning that this is also a field of mindfulness. Thus, the practice of Anusati or mindfulness does not refer to only Vedananusati, as is assumed by many here in Kathmandu. Especially those who have practiced at Sri Goenkaji's place think that Vedananusati is the only mindfulness practice taught by Bhagavan Buddha. But the Bhagavan Buddha has clearly stated in his own words that the Prabhasur Chitta is also a field of mindfulness. And he has said, Bahulikatam, meaning that by practicing this repeatedly, Yana Dasana Patilabhaya Samvatiti, enlightenment is attained. Now this is the Sutrayan method of meditation on the Prabhasur Chitta. In Tantrayan or Mantrayan, Shamatha and Vipassana on the same Prabhasur Chitta are done using different methods. But we won't go into that today. We will focus on the question asked here. So as one practices in this way, in the span of a year, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, or 15 years, as many as 20, 40, or 50 koans are completed, depending on the number of koans used in the particular tradition. These koans also get progressively subtle. The teachings of the sutras are presented as a series of questions that get more and more subtle, and one has to be able to answer them. And once a practitioner gets to the higher levels, the sutras themselves are quoted. For example, like the one I mentioned before from the Vajrachedika Sutra, which led to the awakening of Huineng, which was Kvachit api na pratishtitam chittam utpadahitavyam, or awaken the mind without establishing it anywhere. So what does this mean? Now, this has to be answered in the Zen style, and not by literally explaining the meaning of the words. If one has really understood, then the answer will indicate what was pointed at by the line of the sutra. Actually, even the word understood is incorrect in Zen, where it is said that if you understand, then you are already wrong. The point is not to understand it, but rather to experience it, to experience the vipassana, to experience what the verse is saying. If one has the experience, then one is able to give the answer. For example, the answer could be just beating on the table. That itself is the answer. And if the answer is correct, then the guru gives another koan. In this way, the koans get finer and finer. For instance, a subtle koan would be related to causes and conditions. Causes and conditions are relative truth, but the ultimate truth is also included there. For example, one koan says, there are 2 sisters crossing the street. Is she the older sister or the younger sister? So one takes this question, the older sister or the younger sister, and meditates on it, on what it means. And such a practice is also applicable to everyday situations, to experience things as they are. That is the experience of tatata or yathabhut. These realizations, according to the teachings of Bhagavan Buddha, are what lead to the experiences of yathabhutata, that is, of seeing and experiencing things as they are, to see in the sense of the pashyana of vipassana, to see the world as it is, to experience it as it is. Now, where can such a method be found in any Shaiva Sutra, Tantra, etc.? It cannot be found anywhere. So how can Shiva be the first teacher of the Zen tradition? If that were the case, then Bodhidharma would have said that our first guru is Shiva. The lineage traces back to him. But such statements are not found anywhere in the Zen tradition. Bodhidharma was a Buddhist whose lineage can be traced back to Bhagavan Shakyamuni. There is a story which is found in the Zen tradition and which is also found in the Sarvastivada tradition. However, I am not sure if it can also be found in the Theravada tradition or not. But the story goes that Mahakashyap had already been practicing for a long time, when one day, during an assembly where all were gathered, Bhagavan Buddha picked up and smelled a flower. And Mahakashyap had a sudden realization, and the Bhagavan smiled. Now this is a point that I have not mentioned before, that a Buddha, that is, an actual Buddha, never laughs out loud like we do. He does not laugh in a way that shows his teeth. A Buddha only smiles. This is also one of the characteristics of a Buddha. And I don't know if this has been understood by those who consider themselves to be a Buddha or those who assert that others are a Buddha. So the Buddha smiled. And when the monks asked him why he was smiling, he said because Mahakashyap had understood. Bodhidharma belongs to the lineage of the same Mahakashyap, 27 or so generations later. And it was Bodhidharma who went to China. Thus, according to the story of Bodhidharma himself, the lineage came from Shakyamuni Buddha to Mahakashyap and then to Bodhidharma. So the question that arises here is, how could Shiva then be the first teacher of Zen? This does not make any sense at all.
Etat sadhana punnena sarve sarvagata padam prapnovantu jayantu cha kushalam karma vairiram janma mrityu jara vyadhi swarupa vartapuritvat mochayama sarvasatvan durgamat bhavasagarat.